welcome to Rocks Box. I'm Helen Revel and this is Dylan Bernstein. Dylan's been here at Yoga Rocks for a week, it's been very nice. I'm just going to ask him a few questions. So, Dylan, someone has described you to me as a yoga scientist.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, it's news to me.
So do you feel like a yoga scientist?
That's good. It's a surprising question. Well, I do think that there is some element of science in yoga. I think yoga it's always been honored, or as long as I've known yoga, it's been honored as one of the classical Indian traditions of philosophies, or the Shat Darshan, 6 perspectives on the universe. But yoga is one of the more scientific ways that we can approach our understanding of the universe and of ourselves, because it gives us a practice, something that we can do. So if we look at scientists in a laboratory doing experiments, I guess there's really a parallel there. Every day when we're on the mat or doing our chanting or just doing mantra or in our daily life, we're actually doing experiments. I feel like I'm doing experiments and learning things about how I am, how the universe is. So in that way, yeah, I like this idea.
Nice.
Yoga scientist. Yeah.
And where would you put yoga then? As a religion, philosophy, science? What, can you box it up or not?
I think it's easy to box up at the beginning, but once you truly start to practice and look within, look at yourself, and take some of these yogic philosophies and practices that work for you, adapt them into your daily life, I think it gets very difficult to draw the line between what is yoga and what isn't yoga. So it becomes a little bit bigger, even, dare I say, bigger than religion. Because religion seems to have an idea of some people do it and some people don't. I make a point in my life to spend a lot of time with so-called non-yogis, right? And sometimes I find that they're the greatest yogis of all, that actually they've incorporated a lot of self-realization and a lot of self-found truth into their natural way of being, regardless of whether they have a Om tattoo or they're wearing a certain brand of yoga clothing that's in vogue. So yeah, maybe it's bigger than all these things. It's a lifestyle, a philosophy, a way of being.
And do you think there's parts of yoga that you can't actually explain in words, that you can only feel?
Yes, definitely. I think the more we try to explain it, as our viewers may be aware of my last explanation, the more words we start throwing at it, the less the further we are away from the truth of the matter. And we see this reflected in a lot of ancient sutras, and certainly in Eastern mysticism that's saying, those who know do not say, those who say, like me, do not know, yo.
Excellent.
Word up.
Okay, and Dylan, like Maria and Basya, who I interviewed before, is also an Ashtangi. So I'm not going to talk too much about Ashtanga because we already did in the last 2 interviews. But Dylan did use the term, if you like, fundamentalist Ashtangi the other day.
Oh,
and
geez.
do you think, this is a bit political, do you think that Ashtanga is fundamentally fundamentalist, if you like? Or do you think it can be a softer practice? The method itself is very strong, is very, becomes a part of your being, if you like. So what do you think about this?
This is a great question, and it is political. I like that. I like that we're delving into the no-fly zone here. We're in the red area. I think what we see is people enter the practice of Ashtanga, Vinyasa Yoga, what I've seen, and they love it. It speaks to them. They discover things about themselves they hadn't even had the information to ask the question about before. And so they know it works. They know it works, and they want to pass it on to the students who they start to teach. So they start to teach exactly what has worked for them. And it's logical. It makes sense. But when I find people who practice for long periods of time, consistent Ashtanga practice, a regular Ashtanga practice, they seem so much more open. If I go and I find a great teacher who's been practicing, say, Ashtanga for, 5 years. Great teacher, wonderful person, perhaps enlightened, I don't know. They seem more likely to have some kind of idea about You know, okay, your fingers all need to be touching each other, and your hand needs to be at exactly this angle. Can't be here, can't be here, can't be here. Whereas when I practice with senior teachers who've been practicing, say, more than 20 years, they're like, right, okay, there's some awareness in your hand, you're doing that, and you're feeling this, and you're breathing. And they trust the practitioner, because it's still a self-exploration. It's still a journey into the self, for self-knowledge, for self-realization at the highest levels. So we've got to be able to trust the practitioner to know, wait, no, it really hurts my hand this way. If it hurts, okay, let's find a way to do it where it doesn't hurt. So that's one way, I think, to answer your question. I think Ashtanga does become soft. Most of us need, and certainly I needed, a period of sticking to it. I thought, oh, I don't need to do this pose. I'm good at it already. Right? I admit. I thought, Supta Padangustas, no, I used to do this one a lot, so I can just plow right ahead then. And sure enough, later on, I realized, oh, wait, I'm not getting certain action in the psoas that I need desperately now. Maybe I should have been doing these poses all along, and just sticking to the series, submitting myself into the practice. But I think, you know, for many people, you go through that phase, and then you realize, okay, within this pose, what am I trying to do? Within this pose, am I focusing today on dristi? Am I focusing today on mula bandha? Am I focusing on listening, actually listening to the sound of my inhale and my exhale? So from the outside, people look at Ashtanga and they think, oh, look, it's the same series of poses. It's closed, it's rigid. But without having someone in your ear all the time telling you, now open your heart and make sure you're internally rotating the thigh and remember to love your neighbor, all these kinds of things, which are good things. It's really wide open. Inside the practice, it's just vast and open, like the open sea. What are you doing? You're watching your breath, you're watching your dristi. So, yeah, I guess I would have to say, I believe in the nature of the practice, the way it's taught, and I do find it to be a soft practice and one that's open, a soft and open practice. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Dylan's website is www.stillnessinaction.com. Is that right?
It is. Yes.
Yeah. And so, stillness in action. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, again, the more I tell, the further we'll be from the truth. But that's what I do, isn't it? So here we go. Let's blur up the lens.
Nice.
I think there's a tradition that goes deep and far back. The idea of being able to be acting in the world, but be detached from the nature, from the results of one's actions. So we see this in Bhagavad Gita, we see it in Tao Te Ching. You know, it's a big topic. And one way is that we can approach this is by meditating and finding stillness within. Now, it's said to be the higher path, or the more challenging path, is to keep that stillness that the meditator has somehow achieved. Stillness in the mind, maybe in the heart, stillness within, and act in the world. So that's kind of where I'm coming from with this whole stillness and action thing. I think in the Ashtanga practice we find it reflected on the physical level, that even though we're doing lots of physical poses, back and forth, moving the limbs, etc., there's a stillness physically that's happening internally, that we're looking for these bandhas, the Uddiyana bandha, Mula bandha, keeping the lower abdomen, let's say, engaged and still, even as the breath is dynamic and full. So the closer we come to the internal, the closer we find this, the closer we come to this stillness, even though we're able to act in the world. And if we can take that off the mat into our daily lives, that's a great place to be, where we do have this stillness, identifying with the observer as we're active in the world. Yeah.
It's important to take yoga off the mat into real life.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a great practice on the mat. It's a wonderful practice. And hopefully it informs your whole practice off the mats.
Yeah, and this week at Yoga Rocks, it's been very beautiful. We've been practicing outside.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what do you think practicing outside brings to your practice?
Oh, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. I've been practicing outside here at Yoga Rocks this week, and starting off with our mornings with pranayama. And I often teach in the cities. Love cities. Cities are great. Lots of great people in the cities who really want and need to do yoga. But just that first breath when you settle into your pranayama practice, like we were doing a few days ago, and you could just smell the air, smell the different flowers that are in season right now, and feel the sweetness of the air and be nourished by the mother that is the air. it's such a different practice. It's such a different practice. And we can hear the waves. I don't know if our viewers, listeners can hear the waves. But they're always with us here, even on a really still and beautiful day like today. So that always helps to remind us of the natural cycles of life. Yeah, it's a really different practice. And of course, you know, wherever I am, if I'm in the city, I practice. If I'm in an airport with a huge layover, I'll practice. But it's nice to get into nature. Don't forget. Do not forget. Get into nature. And if you have an opportunity to come check out somewhere like Yoga Rocks, by all means, do so. Because yeah, it's a brilliant place to practice. My 4th year on the site. And every year it just gets better and better. I appreciate it more and more. And every year my practice feels better and better too. Just like the air. Soft and sweet, smooth. It's brilliant to be here.
Super. Yeah, no, it's been lovely to have Dylan here. We've learnt a lot. We've had a lovely week. So that's it from Yoga Rocks Box for now. Thank you for watching. Namaste.
Namaste.